There seems to be a concerted effort this legislative session to restrict access to firearms. Can you share your thoughts on some of these proposals?
Yeah, I think we have about a dozen bills right now that are all related to restricting firearm access. Right now, I would say that there are a variety of approaches, from limiting lead ammunition, limiting magazine capacity, and other options. I think most of us are familiar with the the concept of assault weapons and defining assault weapons, which I think is problematic because we're assigning a motive, the action of assault, to an object, which doesn't really make sense to me. Article 1, Section 24 of the state constitution is very clear that the individual citizen has the right to bear arms in defense of himself or the state. So I think it's important going forward when these bills come up to acknowledge our role as individuals who have sworn to uphold the Constitution, what our limitations are, and what our responsibilities to our constituents are as it relates to the Constitution.
One idea you've spoken about passionately in the past is increasing the ability for constituents to provide testimony to legislation remotely. What are your thoughts about this?
That's a very important issue. Thanks for asking about it. So I know that several legislators, primarily from the east side of the state, have been bringing that up for several sessions. I'm from Walla Walla. It takes 5 hours to drive to Olympia. When folks are required to take a full day off work to come to Olympia to testify on a bill, chances are they're only going to receive a minute to 2 minutes for public testimony. I think it's a lot to ask of someone to spend the gas, the overnight accommodations, the time off work, lost pay, potentially additional costs for childcare, to come over and speak for 2 minutes. If committees are full, they might not get to speak at all. So I've been working across the aisle with a Democrat colleague to draft a resolution that ultimately would direct a work group to come up with recommendations over interim, and then this October provide recommendations that hopefully we could implement a remote testimony program over the next year or so. Currently, the Senate is doing this. And it's 2019. I don't think there's any reason why we can't utilize technology to make government more accessible to the people.
You have a bill that would require cursive writing instruction in schools. Tell me more about this bill.
So that effort this year is led by Senator Warnick in the Senate, and I offered to work with her on that bill and drafted a companion bill. So it's identical to the Senate version. Companions are typically a way to increase the likelihood that a bill, whether it's a House or Senate version, is going to make it through the process. In this case, it was dropped a little bit late, but I thought it was important to keep that conversation going and hopefully address it through legislative action next year. I feel that Cursive is not outdated, not yet at least. It's more efficient than printing. There's fine motor skill development that I think is beneficial for 3rd and 4th graders that are learning Cursive. And then I think there's also the aspect that you probably hear most frequently, the ability to read historical documents. I think most people are talking about the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution, but I think we can look to our more recent history. If you're hired by a business and have a task of going through company documents from 30 years ago, chances are you're going to run into cursive writing, and I think it's important to maintain that skill at this point.